From the shores of Lake Washington, this is Classic Thunder, the Seafair Hydro Special, with Don Poyer, Elaine Perkins, Tony Ventrella, and Ray McMacken. Here are your hosts, King 5's Paul Sylvie and Chris Egan.
Good evening and welcome to the Seafair Hydro Special. It's called Classic Thunder because tonight we're taking you back to the 50s all the way to present day.
You're going to see some vintage boats, racers, and King 5 talent throughout the years. Here's Tony Ventrella and how this all began 70 years ago with the Gold Cup.
Back in the early 1950s, the Gold Cup became synonymous with Seafair, Seattle's big summertime bash, and why not? The Seattle-based Thunderboats that dominated boat racing and Seafair came about at the same time. Here now is a nostalgic look back. 1951, Seattle celebrates its first century since a band of Illinois pioneers founded a settlement on the peaceful shores of Puget Sound. And there is cause for celebration. Business has never been better. Seattle is known worldwide for its aircraft production and an exciting new industry. Television makes its debut. Seattle, blessed with an abundance of sparkling waters, inspiring mountain views, and an availability of aircraft technology and spare aircraft engines, was the perfect place for two boat fanatics to develop a concept that was to change the face of boat racing forever: a flying boat. The idea was not a new one. In fact, Alexander Graham Bell used the principle in 1919 to build a boat that flew over the water at unheard-of speeds of over 60 knots, a speed record that stood for more than 40 years. Powered by an aircraft fighter engine modified to crank out almost double its designed horsepower, the Slow-Mo 4, driven by Stan Sayers, roared over the crystal waters of Lake Washington at a new world speed record of 160.32 miles an hour. Residents of the sleepy community of Sheridan Beach nicknamed the hydroplane Thunderboats. Boat racing would never be the same again. That summer, Stan Sayers took the Thunderboat to the Detroit River, entered the race, and literally snatched the Gold Cup from under the noses of the Gar Wood cigar speedsters that had dominated the powerboat racing world for over 2 decades. The first annual Seafair race took place on Lake Washington in August of 1951. The shoreline was just covered with spectators turning out to see the first of what has become an annual event. And television, that fledgling new business where men scurried around with cables and microphones and ungainly cameras with hot control rooms packed into little Dodge vans. Yes, the Dodge step van was there. King Television, the first television station west of the Mississippi and north of San Francisco, was on hand for the gala event to capture the kaleidoscope of motion. The inimitable roar of the V-12 Allison cranking out 3,000 horsepower down the stretch. The drama of the race itself. And the story of the race preparation, mechanics, owners, and drivers. And to capture the moments that make hydroplane racing the sport it is today. In 1955, Lou Fagel was screaming down the backstretch at over 160 miles an hour in the Slow-Mo 5. He hit a patch of rough water, bounced once, then twice, and then 3 times. First on one sponson, then another. The bow pitched up, and with full throttle driving the boat forward, 3 tons of boat and its driver flipped completely over, but landed safely. However, Lou Fagel never raced again. And Bill Munsey, the winningest driver in the history of hydroplane racing, at the start of Heat 2A in 1958, roaring through the south turn on the inside, traveling at over 135 miles an hour. The missed thriftway lost rudder control, and Bill Munsey at the helm, unable to steer, crossed 6 lanes of traffic, crashing full speed into a Coast Guard cutter, which promptly sank. Luckily, Munsey had only bruises and a cut on his foot. He bailed out 2 seconds before the impact. And who could forget the colorful Wild Bill Cantrell and the Gale 5, who in 1954, out of control in the south turn, blasted into the bank of Lake Washington, sliding up the shoreline and coming to rest in the middle of a lakeside party of race watchers. Again, no one was hurt. Yes, Seattle has a right to be proud of Seafair. The past 30 years have had some great moments. In the final heat of the 1951 Seafair race, Quicksilver disappeared in a geyser of spray, taking both driver and mechanic to their deaths. The sport was not only exciting, but dangerous too. In 1952, Miss Pepsi was the first to break the 100-mile-per-hour speed barrier for an entire lap. But trouble hit the event when such crust blew up, seriously injuring driver Bill Cantrell. George Simon and the first Miss U.S. appeared in 1953, and in 1955 there were several new arrivals. Bill Munsey made his debut in the Missed Thriftway, Jack Regis in Scooter 2, and Rush Schley in Rebel Sa. In 1957, the first Miss Bardall made its appearance. The Hawaii Kai won hands down in 1958, driven by Jack Regis. All of Seattle watched when the Thunderboats roared, with more people turning out than for any other sports event. Those who didn't want to fight the crowds, or those who wanted to see the event from every angle, turned to television. Channel 5 for coverage that couldn't be duplicated anywhere else in the country. With up to 10 strategically located cameras, miles of microphone and camera cable, and an army of technical and production staff, King's coverage of the Seafair Trophy race has become a tradition of its own. This year, when the Thunderboats line up for the starting gun, just think, it started way back in 1951, when Stan Sayers and Ted Jones got together and said, "Let's build a boat that'll fly."
And here we stand in the Stan Sayers pits. You saw the slow motion 4 in that piece. Throughout this program, we're going to bring you a lot of races. This is 1952 and the Slow-Mo 4's winning run in living color.
It's almost race time now. Even the press, used to the classics of every sport, tenses expectantly. Only 4 boats left now as they swing into the rough north turn. Warning rockets leap as a roar and flash mark the exploding such crust. There's a tense moment as the speeding hydroplane swerves crazily, hurling Wild Bill Cantrell aflame into the water. 10 seconds and a Coast Guard rescuer grabs him. 4 minutes and he's ashore and safe. The Slow-Mo 5 and Miss Great Lakes, Such Crust and the Pepsi. They're all dead in the water now from the unrelenting pressure and pounding, the murderous pace of the wildest Gold Cup of them all. Miraculously fitted with the dead Slow-Mo 5's propeller between heats, after throwing her own in the first heat, the Slow Motion 4 is still the one to beat. Faster, faster. Dollar and Weissel wind them up like watch springs, and the Hurricane hits her peak lap of the heat. There's a crack heard clear across the course. The proud plume of the rooster tail is gone as the Hurricane's mightiest challenge twists and snaps her drive shaft. There's no cheering yet. The atmosphere's grown tense. No one speaks, but the questions are there. Can the old lady do it? Can the Slow-Mo 4 last out the heat? Or did the Hurricane push her to the limit as the Slow-Mo 5 pushed Pepsi? She's round the last turn. She's got the checkered flag. She's done it again. She's a grand old lady, the Slow Motion 4. And her second Gold Cup is a victory well shared with her youthful driver, Stanley Dollar. And it's shared in true traditional form by a wet Mike Welch and his pit crew that did the impossible. 3 times in a row now has owner Sayers had a Gold Cup winner, but this is the big one. It's a big one, too, for all of us who go down to the seas and the lakes and the rivers and all kinds of boats. Means more pleasure on the water for us all. It's a nice thought to have with us, cruising along.
Cruising along is now what I think of when I see these boats doing 145 miles an hour around the turn. Jimmy Shane makes it look easy. He's won 6 of the last 7 national championships.
Top of the turn now is your leader on the race course. It is Jimmy Shane.
Jimmy Shane was born to race. His dad and mom raced boats. His older sister raced, and Jimmy started racing at the age of 8. He built his own boat at 15.
This is definitely my passion. Like I said, I grew up in it. It's in my blood. It was the environment, the only environment that I knew as a child growing up. And I just remember the good times that I had with my family and all the things we got to experience that majority of the people don't get to experience. I definitely don't take that for granted.
When it comes to racing, it's hard to top Seafair weekend in Seattle.
That's the one that obviously your sponsor wants to win. Seafair, it's televised. It's something that millions of people can relate to in this area.
Jimmy has won twice at Seafair and has had the chance to win a couple more, but penalties and judgment calls have haunted his team. Some say penalties have hurt the sport, and something needs to change so fans can have a better understanding on who wins a race.
It's really hard to see a consistently changing outcome.
I was just so disheartened after last year. We finished first on the race course and we didn't get the win.
I think the sport realizes it, and I think they are trying to do their best to come up with the resources that they have and they're provided with. They are definitely working towards coming up with the best solutions. So I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect situation where you can just absolutely make the perfect call. But I think the sport's going to continue to move forward and try to advance and just get better.
It's okay. I'm already a bad guy in Seattle.
I don't think I could ever do anything right in Seattle, win or lose. They just sort of hate me a little bit. I don't know why. I got booed right out of the Kingdom, first man in the history of power sports. And I didn't do anything except say that the San Diego Chargers are going to blow the doors off the Seahawks. That's all I said. As long as they are for you or against you, at least they're involved in the sport. I think that's the trick part. And a lot of people maybe don't like the way I drive a boat, or they don't like the way I appear. I'm sort of strange looking, and I didn't grow good hair, and I'm a little teeny person. I got little dinky legs and arms and other stuff that ain't working so good. But it's just one of those things. On the other hand, they can never say that we're not, trying to run super strong and win as many boat races as we can. That's the objective, and we do that.
Bill Muncy is called the greatest hydroplane racer of them all. Muncy won his first Seafair in 1957. He'd do it 9 times, the last time in 1980. Muncy took us out on Lake Washington before that race to share some strategy. Here's Elaine Perkins and Don Poyer.
We just spoke with Bill Muncy, and he said something kind of interesting. He was saying that because of the delay that his boat and the others in this heater are kind of a disadvantage. If something does go wrong, if something needs to be worked on, there's very little time to do that before the championship heat. But then Bill Muncy will always tell you, we know, as he has earlier today, about all of his disadvantages, all the while with a gleam in his eye, and he is well knowing that he's the favorite and has a pretty good chance to take this race.
Of course, Bill Muncy is a very principal character in hydroplane racing. He has been for the last umpteen years. But unlike many sports where the driver is merely along for the ride, the hydroplane pilot is in complete control. Is mental preparation often determining whether he wins or loses? And I talked with Bill Muncy about his race day strategy.
What about cornering? I know in the past you've always been known as hugging the buoys so well, better than any other driver. Are you still that kind of a driver in the corners?
Well, when it's tactically in my interest, yes. When I think when it's good strategy, good racing, and I can move the field around a little bit, I'll do that, and so will everybody else. They all know how to play the game as well as I do, and I'm not going to throw anything at them that they haven't seen, and they're not going to throw anything at me that I haven't seen. And for every move that I make, there's a counter move. And you got to be aware and make most of those moves. So if I am so fortunate as to break on top, I'll run a lane, and I know that I hope by the time I will make them labor their equipment to the ultimate and make them work as hard as they possibly can and go a lot faster than I think I'm going to have to go.
Do you think you're becoming a more flexible driver, using more versatility?
Oh, I think, hey, having been in this so darn long, I should have learned something by now. Tactically, I think that I've always paid a great deal of attention to the sport, and I've been a student of the sport, and I still am a student, and I'm still learning. And I think it's helped me a lot. I think that having driven as long as I have, many of the moves that I make, that when I'm out of attitude, or getting a little looser than I should, I don't think that, I'm not a giant intellect. I'm an average guy, smart-wise, although I may be a little more racing smart than some people because I've been there so long. But the truth is that most of those moves, those corrections you make to get yourself back into attitude, come as a result of conditioned reflexes and having done it so darn many times. And boy, let me tell you, do I make them work.
And I want to tell you, I went for a ride there with Bill while we taped that, and he says, listen, I want to take you through a corner just to give you some idea what the G's are like, or the force. I said, okay, Bill, I'm ready. I was on the left seat. We went past the exit buoy, and next thing I knew, I was sitting on Bill.
And here's how the race went.
There's the gun, and there goes Muncie. Bill Muncie out of the lead. Muncie on the outside. There's your distance now. First place. Healthy lead for Bill Muncie. He is running, and he is not looking back, folks. So we're not seeing any problem at all right now as far as handling for Bill Muncie. He is pouring it on. My, oh my, he is turning some heads now. He is ripping up the course. Bill Muncie has himself a cakewalk if he can stay healthy. Congratulations to Mr. Bill Muncie. Checkered flag going on to second place. Steve Reynolds of the Circus. And in the meantime, Chip Hanauer sits, thinks, wonders. One more lap for the buncher as it comes by the fresh bars. Bill Muncie goes along in his victory lap. Bill Muncie, the world champion in 1980. What a marvelous job he did. Right from the start, he had the race under control. Not much of a challenge at all. Here's Muncie. Bill Muncie's your world champion. Precarious at times, but it was a delight. Everything ran beautifully, and the engine performed strong, and man, we had a marvelous start. Everything worked just perfectly.
While Muncie was the greatest racer all those years, the top owner was Bernie Little, winning a record 134 times over a 40-year career. In 1973, his Miss Budweiser, with Dean Chenoweth at the wheel, averaged over 120 miles an hour to be the first to do so. In the Seafair race that year, the boat came up just short, but what a race it was.
It looks like the pay and pack will take, with the Budweiser, the lead on the start. Budweiser! Now slamming into the north turn, your leader on the outside, the Pride of Pay and Pack. On the inside, the beer boat, Budweiser. In third place, Atlas Van Lines. In fourth place, not too far back, the Shaky Special. Mickey Riemann is your leader. Take a look at these boats coming through the south corner. Budweiser has closed up some ground because Mickey Riemann does not see that Dean Chenoweth is smoking in on him a lot harder this time than before. We got a whale of a boat race in the north turn. It looked like the Pay and Pack slowed down going into that north turn considerably. Dean Chenoweth is putting everything into it now, Raymond. This is his last straight shoot to catch him on. He's got to hit the nitro right now, and he's closing the gap ever so slightly. Does he have the room? Does he have the time? 1:14 plus the official time for lap number 4. We're on the final lap. That's going into the final turn, the north turn, with the Pride of Pay and Pack, your leader in second place. Closing the gap is the Budweiser. Can he pull it off? 2 boat lengths, 3 boat lengths. That's all that separates those 2 boats coming out of this turn. On the inside, the Pack. On the outside, the Budweiser. The Pack is on the inside, the Bud on the outside. Here they come. It's going to be close. The checkered flag is out. The Pay and Pack has done it. The Budweiser almost nipped him, Mike. Almost nipped him. The Pride of Pay and Pack, as you knew. 1973 world's champion by, I would say, less than a boat length.
Fast forward 29 years when Bernie won his 15th and final Seafair race with Dave Villwock in the seats. In 2002, Miss Budweiser won 3 races and a 14th Gold Cup for Bernie Little. Said Villwock in a story by hydro historian Fred Farley, "We have an excellent team with a lot of talent and experience. My job is to make sure that we all focus on the same plan. Throughout the year, the guys worked their hearts out and never let me down. Bernie was a mentor, a friend, and a family member all at the same time. Everyone through the years of the Miss Budweiser team looked to Bernie for guidance and stability.
That's a six-pack here in Seattle, and unbelievable. I never thought I won my first race here in 1994, and that was, a Cinderella story of Fred Leland's boat, and to be able to win 6 times here, it's unbelievable.
Dave Villwock would go on to win 4 more Seafair championships, passing Bill Munsey with his 10th and final win in 2009. Villwock is the all-time winningest hydroplane driver and recently sat down with us.
Some of the other teams, they look at the rough water and get a little apprehensive. Our team looks at it and goes, surf's up, let's go. We live for this stuff.
Dave Villwock was this happy at least 67 times, the number of races he won. But even when things went well, the boats take a pretty good toll on the driver.
The boats look graceful and they look as though they float above the water and put up beautiful plumes of water in the air and make, it looks like they just float. But in reality, they're beating the snot right out of you. There's no suspension on these things. So when the boats hit the water, they're hitting at between 5 and 50 Gs. So it's a lot like getting beat up with a baseball bat in the middle of the room tied to a chair.
Villwock won 37 of 58 races over 8 seasons for Bernie Little in the Miss Budweiser.
Many times at Seattle when Bernie would come out on the boat, many people, including me, thought that Bernie went out and say, God, you got to go win this one. He never said that. He would go out and say just the opposite. He goes, hey, he says, do the best you can. He says, it's going to be tough. He says, this won't be the last race we're in, just to give it your best. He never ever really put any pressure on anybody. So he was a great guy to work for, and I like to say that I got him at the best time.
Sometimes winning that much can make you the villain with the fans. And that was all right. Dave got some advice from Dale Earnhardt on that one.
Oh, hell, he says, if they ain't booed you, you ain't done nothing yet. And I think the same thing happened to Muncy, even though that he was, the Atlas guy and had done a lot of things. But as he won more and more, that's just what happens. And so I just, instead of running away from it or being frustrated by it, I just embraced it. And say, when something happened and they blamed it on me, I said, of course, it's my fault.
As for Seafair, it's where everyone gives it their all.
The very first race I won here for Fred Leland, which was a special race. We tore the sponson off the boat in Tri-Cities, came over, worked all night for 3 days, came down, slept on the boat, got up and qualified well and ended up winning the race on Sunday. So you always just put the very best you have, you give it all your effort, and that's why Seattle is special. And it's just something you have to give a little something extra for, and that's what people pay for in buying a ticket to Seafair or any sporting event. They're not there just to see somebody playing basketball or somebody playing football or somebody racing a car or a boat. They're there to see something truly special happen. And it happens at Seattle.
Live, continuous coverage of not only unlimited hydroplane racing, but what's going on Lake Washington all day today, including the beautiful Blue Angels of the United States Navy.
Since 1972, the Blue Angels have performed in Seattle every year except for 3. The Boeing Air Show, always one of the most exciting parts of Seafair weekend.
Okay, this is kind of the opening maneuver to introduce people to the 6 pilots that are flying. The solos are now detached from the formation, and they're going to set up for their first opposing maneuver along the flight line.
All right.
What we call the hit.
Ooh. Oh no! Come on, that's.
I know what you're going to say. A little bit tight. And the push coming on. And this is the back-to-back roll. It's Lieutenant Commander Johnny Miller in the lead maneuver we call the Fortis. And here comes the landing gear. Still maintain that close formation. Going to the inverted position, going to the dirty configuration, and then the gear will come back up again here shortly.
If there ever was a perfect King Fiver to go up with the Angels, it was our Mr. Adventure, sailor, mountaineer, and pilot, longtime meteorologist Jeff Renner.
United States Navy.
the Blue Angels, as much a part of Seafair as the hydro races. For each minute they spend in the air, hours are spent in preparation. Work which began this weekend when the Angels arrived at Boeing Field. This is the Blue Angels flight line here at Boeing Field, their base of operations for Seafair. The Blue Angels take a maintenance crew of 30 to each air show, experts in jet engines, control systems, electronics. Each maintenance crewman must meet tough standards to make the team, and each spends hours daily checking, repairing, and waxing each jet.
Overall, we'll spend 12 to 14 hours or so between flying the aircraft and cleaning it, working off any discrepancies that may crop up.
The maintenance crews use the C-130 as a portable parts locker, a plane they affectionately call Fat Albert. Fat Albert was my introduction to the Blue Angels, where I was briefed on the joys and perils of high-speed, precision aerobatics.
Air motion sickness is probably 9/10 self-inflicted.
Motion sickness? Me? The A-4 Skyhawks used by the Angels look ready to leap into flight even parked on the ramp. I soon found that settling into the compact cockpit of a fighter is a slow process. There are countless straps and buckles to ensure that should we need to eject, we'd stay connected to our parachutes. Good idea. Moments later, the pilot of Angel number 7 arrived, Lieutenant Kurt Watson. He eased into the cockpit with a relaxed confidence born of experience and expertise. First, the checklist. Turbines on? Check. Controls? Check. Shocks out? Check. Canopy down and secure? Check. Speed comes quickly in a fighter. 100 knots, 120, 140, rotate. We're up. Gravity presses you into the seat like an invisible giant hand. Arms glued to the seat rests, my head seemed filled with lead. My reaction? Beneath my helmet glare shield, I was grinning from ear to ear. After demonstrating some show maneuvers, Lieutenant Watson invited me to try. My first roll, a little sloppy, but the second felt wonderful. All too soon, we were back at Boeing, setting down in a firm carrier-style landing. I had just one question. Where can I sign up for lessons?
Now, for the current edition of the Blue Angels, we take you down to Pensacola, Florida, where we caught up with the team's coordinator, Lieutenant Commander Adam Carrick.
I spent a lot of years up in Whidbey Island, so for me personally, it was always something to look forward to. The summer was, officially here when the Blues were overhead and the boats were racing and Seafair was going on.
Carrick says the Blue Angels rarely commit to annual appearances at the same show, but they make an exception for Seafair in Seattle. Of the over 30 shows they do each year, there is a uniqueness to performing over Lake Washington.
It's challenging. You have almost like a bowl-shaped area with Mercer Island there in the middle, and then you've got the city out towards the west. So there are some obstacles that make it a little more challenging than, say, flying in the desert. But it's so beautiful. We just enjoy flying up there, and the unique experience of having both ground-based observers and people out on their boats really makes for a wonderful show.
Most of what fans see from the Blue Angels is their incredible precision in the air, but Carrick says they enjoy their work on the ground even more.
Best part is meeting the people all over the country. That's really the greatest part about being a Blue Angel, is to inspire kids and inspire the next generation that'll take our places one day.
With all the canceled shows this summer, the Blue Angels have had more opportunities to perform flyovers over various parts of the country. Carrick says those appearances have a way of lifting people's spirits.
Flying over New York, Philadelphia, DC, Florida, up to Chicago, Detroit, you could see people out in their driveways, out in ball fields, out in high school fields, watching us go over. And it was for me, it was almost an emotional experience because in that moment, you're all just Americans being proud of your country.
While the Blue Angels do all their work inside the plane, another group prefers things a little looser. Here's Chris Cashman with the Golden Knights.
Very exciting. It's a safety briefing. They're going... Sorry, I got a little excited. It's a safety briefing. Going over the plan. I'm going to need these, I'm told.
Out of the gold into the black, once you're there, you never go back. Woo! The Golden Knights! Go back!
We are the official aerial demonstration unit of the United States Army. This is the first show that I've been able to do in Washington State since being a member of the team. And being from Tacoma, it is a really great honor. I can't wait. I'm so excited, not only just to be here at home, but to show everybody that I've grown up with, that I graduated high school with here, that things are awesome, things are possible if you put your mind to it. We fly with the door open the entire time, so that might be a little bit different for everybody. We'll throw our streamers out, make sure our spot is good, and you guys will get to see us actually exit the aircraft. Still get a rush every time. It's very cathartic, to say the least. Yeah.
In 1978, Henry Winkler was maybe the biggest actor on television. 5 seasons into playing the Fonz, Winkler was at Seafair. He didn't jump the shark, but did join Elaine Perkins.
Hello, what do you think of hydroplane races? Is this the first time you've seen them?
The first time I've seen them. Actually, I think it's incredible. Yesterday, I sat in one of the boats, and the driver explained to me exactly how the boat worked and how it started and how it went, what happened if there was a fire. So I kind of understood what was going on when I saw them going around and around.
There seem to be actors who really enjoy double pictures. There seem to be actors who really enjoy the speed aspect. Paul Newman, Steve McQueen.
Yes, they do.
What about that? Did you ever? How would you like to power a hydroplane?
Actually, I like 4 rubber wheels surrounded by steel going about 55 miles an hour. You know, I'd probably fall out, knowing me.
You don't want to try it in the final heat?
No, I don't. I'd like to watch it, but not try it.
And Henry got to see the King win his 7th Seafair crown.
The Budweiser on the inside, the Bud on the outside, going into the north turn. Oh, have we got a scene out here? It looks like it's covered with fog. Muncie coasting up the backstretch, coasting into the north turn. He's 5 buoys away. I'll count him. He's 3 buoys away. He's 2 buoys away. All the way. It's Muncie, 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 Muncie. I call it unadulterated brilliance.
There were a number of personalities on the hydro circuit in the 70s and 80s. Watching the old footage, they were quite TV friendly, especially Steve Reynolds. Driving the Miss Tosti Asti in 1984, Steve joined Greg Palmer for some interesting thoughts on the Seafair course.
This Sunday marks the 6th time Steve Reynolds has piloted an unlimited hydroplane on Lake Washington. The Mercer Island native knows this course like the back of his glove, all of its subtle nuances.
So we'll go out on the course in our boat, and you'll show us all the subtle nuances.
Oh, yeah.
Turns.
Yeah, the old bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where's your boat?
You ready to go?
Yeah.
It's here.
Craig, that's a rowboat.
No, that's top story Marine Unit number 3.
Yeah, but I thought you had a big boat, you know, a great big white sucker.
You know, that's Kairos. They're very big in the motor pool news. We have this. It's a rental.
Okay, but I'm not rowing.
You want to not drag your hand in the water?
Oh, sorry. Hey, wait a minute. Stop right here. Stop right here. Why? Well, this is where all the action starts. This is where it starts for the driver right here.
This is we're hardly out of the pit.
Yeah, but this is where I do the old engine won't start routine. You know, will it start, won't it start? I play around with it for a while. Hanair can be out there doing barrel rolls, but the crowd's watching me right here. And then right at the last minute, I kick it right in the tail and get the hell out of here. Let's go out on the course. Well, now here's where we set up for the start. The start's a very important element of the hydroplane race. Now, sometimes it's the only element.
Like those heats when all the boats break down.
You got it.
So what's going through your mind when you're
milling around up here waiting to start?
Well, I can't speak for the other guys. Me, I'm looking for the shore to see if the cops have towed my car away or not. Now, after the start, the second most important part of the race is the first turn here. Now, usually, the first boat out of the first turn is the first one across the finish line. That is, unless he breaks down first.
Well, what are you thinking about here when you come into the first turn?
Oh, the usual thing. You know, the position of the other boats, engine temperature, oil pressure, Immanuel Kant's theory of human perception, erotic symbolism in Shakespeare's Troilus and Cressida, and then the wave action coming off the exit pin. You know, the usual thing.
What happens when you come out of the first turn?
Oh, I step on the nitro.
What is the nitro?
I haven't the faintest idea. You know, I was always suspicious it was little smudge pots in the exhaust pipes, but the crowd loves it.
And then, he said, you go into the backstretch, where you reach speeds of 200 miles an hour.
You're kidding.
Yeah, 200 miles an hour. I read it.
Really?
Right, I think so.
Well, you got to be crazy to do that in a boat.
Is that what you were thinking about here in the backstretch?
Oh, now listen. When you're doing 200 miles an hour with your tush a foot off the water, your mind is the last thing you're thinking about. Why are we stopped?
I've gone dead in the water.
In the infield, I'm Greg Palmer. Top story.
Here again is Tony Ventrella with how we go about bringing you the races, circa 1983.
Planning starts in the early winter with meetings and lists, ordering scaffolding, cherry picker platforms, trailers, and numerous telephone facilities. We meet with Seafair officials and arrange for every critical foot of space King will need. 30 years ago, when King TV was telecasting its first hydro races, our engineers had to design and build our own special long lenses to get those great tight shots of the boats and the drivers. Today, King still pioneers with new television technology, a live color camera mounted on the Tosti Asti to show us the race as the driver sees it. On Monday of race week, the King remote truck arrives at the pits and our engineers start putting it all together, stringing miles of camera, audio and control cables from everywhere to everywhere. The scaffolding people arrive and start building our giant pit tower camera position. It must be together and working by Thursday so we can record the time trials and testing activity on the course. Also evident are more King people at the pits. Bill Hartley and Don McGowan get the north turn ready so they can deliver shots like this on race day. The hill position with Trin Saniga has a rooftop deck that allows us to get shots like this. Jerry Dorsey and Phil Richardson have their own scaffold in the water to put together so that we can see the great shots of the critical south turn. This King van is packed with videotape machines that record the pictures from every single camera during a race, so we have every possible part of the course covered at all times during a heat. If something happens that we want to show you again, well, we've got it and we can share it with you. Roger Cavan spends the entire week with 4 helpers just getting the audio ready.
We have microphones on the turns and at the start and the finish line. We have microphones on the tower. And as I say, we have wireless capabilities now where you don't have to drag a wire around with you all the time.
The pits are also alive with King programming people, collecting information about the time trials, the drivers, the boats, motors, designs, and tactics so that by race Sunday, we are truly ready to show you the best Seafair coverage ever.
Hi, everybody. I'm Don Poyer here on the shores of Lake Washington with Chip Hanauer, one of the best in the business, and, of course, a member of our broadcast team here on King 5. Chip, it's quiet right now, but Sunday, a lot of commotion.
It's going to be a lot of commotion. Every time the boats have been put in the water this year, it's been deck to deck. So I think the people of Seattle have really got something to look forward to.
Chip Hanauer, the man who's trying to get that one and only victory in Seattle. They've got a new engine and a new propeller for this, the final heat for 1982. Chip Hanauer, rocking and rolling. Chip is running beautifully today, flawlessly. He's one of the most intense drivers. He says he really has to keep himself toned down on race day, not to get too worked up. Hanauer driving so purposely, doing fabulous. 5-second lead now for Chip. And here comes what looks like to be the winner for today. Chip Hanauer, the ultimate summer has arrived. He's a winner in Seattle. Chip can finally relax. Rod and Mike, he finally got what he wanted. He's got the Gold Cup and a victory in Seattle.
And he must have had his fingers crossed, because you never know when something's going to go wrong, even though he led almost wire to wire.
For Chris Egan and our producer Tony White for putting this whole special together, and for Rick Johnson for digging up all the great archive footage for this show, I'm Paul Sylvie in the Stan Sayers pits. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Covering hydroplane racing, and each year the most challenging remote broadcast ever attempted in the Northwest. 6 hours of live coverage, 9 cameras, 6 announcers, and over 140 directors, producers, technicians, and support personnel. King 5, the hydroplane expert.
Muncie wins it! Muncie wins it! The 1979 Seafair race.